Whoa, 2 videos in a week. What is this? What have I done with Symmetry? We are back for another Platinum Trophy review. Today we've got Karnacharya's account. It is a fantastic account. It's a completionist account. We always love to see those with a 99.41% completion rate for 232 platinums. So before we jump in, I just want to do some cheeky self-promotion. I've split the channel. We've got 2 of them now, so you've got double the Symmetry. I'm sorry. The other channel, which is now Symmetry, is going to be for Platinum videos. So think my Resident Evil 7, my Cold War video, and I'm going to be doing at least 2 of those each month. With this channel, only Sims, because I got kicked off OnlyFans. I'll be honest, I've got to make my own platform. This is going to be profile reviews and pretty much just that. It's going to be focused on those reviews. So speaking of the reviews, let's jump in. Also, go subscribe to the other channel. I dare you. There's a bronze trophy in it for you and a platinum if you watch the videos. But let's jump in, shall we? Okay, and the thing that immediately stands out to me on this account is the 220 ultra rares. That is very juicy. But let's look at the list. We start off with root letter. I used to call it tick letter, and I've since learned, even though I just got it wrong. 1000 top rated. This was one of those puzzly sort of slider games. It was one of the original OG easy peasy platinums way back in the day. I don't even think you can get it anymore. I think this is a rare case of Sony removing it back in the day because it was advertised as just a platinum game. We then have 1979 Revolution Black Friday. Now, I would like to tell you about this game, but I was born in 1997, so I wasn't there for that Black Friday. But I believe Walmart was accosted by thousands of people who were trying to get their first colored TV. It was very exciting. We then get A King's Tale Final Fantasy 15. This is a companion to Final Fantasy 15, believe it or not. It is the Tale of the King. We then have Abzu, which is essentially a walking sim, but instead of walking, you are diving. You're essentially exploring several different environments in the ocean. It's kind of very chill, but I also really like that game. I highly recommend Abzu. I think it might be free on Plus, but don't quote me on that. Actual Sunlight, I've never seen this, so I can't really comment, to be honest with you. We then have Adventures of Mana, which I believe is a sequel of sorts to Tales of Mana or Trials of Mana or something. It's a Vita sort of JRPG sort of thing of sorts. Akiba's Trip Undead and Undressed, which I usually keep that on my OnlyFans, but now it's on my OnlySim, so there you go. We then have Alone With You, which is a Vita game that I'm scared of. Amnesia Memories. I've actually been recommended this one a few times. I've heard really good things about Amnesia Memories. It's a visual novel. It's a horror one, and you all know indie horror is my one true love. Now, Karnacharya, we gotta have some words. We gotta have a conversation here. Why is there only one Assassin's Creed? Why is the worst assassin, or one of the worst Assassin's Creeds, the only Assassin's Creed? Now, to be fair, from what we've seen, you've got a lot of Vita games. This is one of the only ones on Vita. I think Chronicles might be as well, but you need to work on that. I'd love to see some more Assassin's Creeds in there somewhere. But Liberation, you smashed it out in 2 weeks. It's okay. I like the whole persona sort of system that they had, wherein different outfits would get you to different areas, but only one of them. It hurts my soul. Someone hold me. We're just gonna move on. We're gonna move on before I have a Simmy breakdown live. We then have Astro's Playroom, everybody's first PlayStation 5 Platinum Trophy. This is a little charming platformer that is based around different classics of Sony's library, as well as their hardware and all that sort of stuff. And it's a fantastic game. I highly recommend it. Even the speedruns, which are normally the bane of my existence, are very enjoyable in this title. We then move into Telltale's Back to the Future. This is sort of pre The Walking Dead and then blowing up. They did a couple non-platinum PS3 sort of series. This, NCIS, CSI, Jurassic Park. There's a few of them. The Back to the Future is probably the most popular of them, and you smashed out all the episodes, so congratulations. We then get 2 more Telltale games here with Batman the Enemy Within and Batman Telltale. I believe Batman Telltale in January 2017. You must have done this when it was free on Plus, I believe, unless it was January 2018, and I'm an idiot. Battle Fantasia, followed by a double stack of David Cage's Beyond Two Souls. This is the only David Cage game I have never played, and I would like to at some point. I've heard relatively good things. You can see by the guide details there, it's a 3 out of 10 in difficulty and about 30 hours to complete. Black and White Bushido, you smash this out in just under an hour, followed by Blaze Blue Calamity Trigger, Blaze Blue Chrono Phantasm, Blaze Blue Continuum Shift, and Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle. I can't say Blaze Blue. That's all I learnt in that. These are sort of not JRPGs, but kind of, I believe they're fighting game slash beat 'em uppy sort of things. One of them was free on Plus last year. That is my only knowledge of this series. I'm an idiot. We then have Bloodborne's 100%, which you smashed out in 2 months, which I always love to see. The Old Hunters, the DLC for Bloodborne, is a rare example of Souls DLC getting trophies, and I loved it. I love this game. I actually wrapped it up myself this year for the 3rd time I've earned that platinum, I believe. It's very fun. I highly recommend it. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. I've talked about this one a few times. This game hurt my brain, which is not hard to do, but essentially you have 2 brothers that you're controlling, each with different analog sticks and different buttons that affect them simultaneously. So the left stick might run one brother, the right stick might run the second brother, and you must do various different puzzles. And any of the ones that were timed, oh boy, that hurt my brain. But the game is very fun and very charming. This is one of the ones I really remember from early, like, Xbox Marketplace, I think it was called. The sort of marketplace that Xbox 360 had that was tailored towards indie titles. This is one of the first ones I really remember being popular on there, and it still lives up. It's still very good. We then have Bug Snacks. I adore Bug Snacks. This is, think Pokemon Snap, but instead of taking lovely photos, you are consuming them. It's an island full of animal bugs that are shaped and flavored like various different snacks in our own lives, and you are growing a community of furry people, furry animal people that like to be dressed as fruit. I'm just gonna move on. Great game though, highly recommend it. Wow, I can't. Editor Mud, leave that in because you're not gonna watch this. Bully. We then have Bully. This is a fantastic Rockstar game. It's you're a kid in a private school, a private high school, and it plays like a Grand Theft Auto. One of the really cool things about this game is that the seasons affect sort of the surroundings and everything. And I believe my good friend Beautiful Torment informed me that the collectibles are quite interesting in Bully, because whilst they might be out and scattered about the wilderness in summer, they're actually locked away in winter. They'll be in a shed because logically they wouldn't be out in the snow. It's a really cool little feature. This is a game I actually kind of want to do on one of my platinum videos, so keep an eye out for that one, maybe, hopefully, possibly. We then have Burly Men at Sea. I am indeed at sea. I'm currently on a boat. That's a fun fact. Chicory: A Colorful Tale. I adore this game. Chicory is fantastic. Essentially, the world is black and white. You play as a little dog bunny fluffy person, and you are going around the world just doing little tasks, occasionally fighting bosses that are promising to doom the world, and painting everything. I'll be honest, I drew a lot of dicks. There was a lot of dick paintings, but besides that, Chicory is fantastic. I really recommend it to pretty much anyone. We have a double stack of Child of Light. This is another game I really want to do at some point. Essentially, this is an Ubisoft side-scrolling RPG, I guess you would call it. Essentially, you're a girl with a little glowing blue flame companion, and you were going through like a fairy tale sort of setting. It's quite good. It's it's definitely one I would recommend. It's one I need to do myself at some point. And one of the really unique things about this game is most of the dialogue is in poem. So different types of poem are used in this game to do its dialogue, which is really, really cool. Citizens of Earth, you smash that out in a week and 5 days, followed by Code Vein, which you did last year, I believe. Our Lord and Savior, OptiNoob himself, has made a fantastic guide on this game, so maybe I'll do it myself at some point. I do think there is some grindy multiplayer in this one, but do correct me if I'm wrong. Essentially, it is kind of like anime Dark Souls, I guess you would say. But I've heard nothing but good things. We then have Code Realize, Guardian of Rebirth, followed by Concrete Genie, which I talked about on the last episode. The base game's fantastic. You're a boy who can draw different monsters on walls and stuff, and they will do different puzzles and things for you, and you can interact with them in different ways. But the DLC it's a trap. Essentially, the DLC is VR exclusive. The base game is not. So a lot of people, you see, will have a 98% completion there because they can't do the 3 DLC trophies. You, however, have smashed it out, so good on you. We then have Cosmic Star Heroine. We got that twice, followed by Costume Quest twice, which is kind of like a little Paper Mario-y sort of game, I believe. We then have a bit of cricket here, which is a sore spot for the English at the moment, not for us, woo! But essentially, Cricket 22, you smash that out in a week and 2 days, followed by Cross Edge and some Cyber Dimension Neptunia for Goddesses Online. How many Goddesses are online? 4, apparently. We then got some Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair, Danganronpa, another episode, Ultra Despair Girls. A lot of despair in Danganronpa, apparently. And then we have Trigger Happy Havoc, which is probably describes every redneck Australian, so maybe I should do that one at some point to get back to my roots. We then have Day of the Tentacle, which is a LucasArts side-scrolling point-and-click that I've heard is fantastic. I need to do this myself at some point. Then we have some Dead or Alive, which is, it's juicy. Dead or Alive 5, 0.52% platinum trophy, and you know I love to see that right there, so congratulations, Karnacharya. We then have Dead or Alive 5 Ultimate, which is a good deal easier. I believe it did cut out quite a bit of the grind, followed by Last Round, and then Dead or Alive 6. But the Dead or Alive 5 plat, sub 1%, oh, it's juicy, you'll love to see it. We then have Deadliest Warrior, the game, followed by Deathspank, followed by Deathspank, the Bankening, followed by Deathspank, Fongs of Virtue. That is 3 more games than we needed with the name Deathspank, but I actually believe these are generally pretty good games. I've not done them myself, but I have heard very good things. Diamond Trios, followed by Diablo 4, which is one of the very rare games that you don't have up 100% because it's one you're working on currently. We then have Disgaea 1 Complete, followed by DJ Max, the Technica Tune, Doki Doki Universe twice, followed by some Dragon Ball Z here, which you always love to see, with Fighter Z and Kakarot. Fighter Z obviously being very impressive because it is a ultra rare platinum at 2.95%. We then have some Dragon Fantasy Book 1 and 2, followed by Volumes of Wisteria, and then we get some Dragon Quest, which is one of my... I'm not a big JRPG player if the Platinum series has not thoroughly given that away. But I adore Dragon Quest. This is a series that I grew up with. I have very fond memories of playing Dragon Quest 4, 5, 6, and 9 on the Nintendo DS way back in the day. Even, I believe 7 or 8 later got ports to the DS, and I believe I played them as well. But the series is fantastic. The World's Trees, Woe, and the Blight Below has probably the worst name in gaming, but is a Dynasty Warriors-y sort of clone, and then Echoes of an Elusive Age is a traditional Dragon Quest, and this is another game I kind of want to do a Platinum video on at some point because I've never played it, and like I said, I adore the series. I don't know, you can play it in 2 different settings. You can play it as a modern JRPG would in the 3D sort of environments, or you can play it in 2D, kind of like the traditional Dragon Quests, and I kind of want to play it in that format because obviously I will have lots of nostalgia. We then have some Dragon's Crown, followed by some Dungeon Punks, some Iodine Chronicles Rising, some Ether 1, some juicy Fallouts here with 300%, 400%, and Shelter in a month, which makes me think that you didn't use the clock exploit. So good work there. I'm always impressed. Only 2 Far Cries with Far Cry 3 and Far Cry Primal. Oh geez, I'm seeing the Final Fantasies. We're gonna be here a while. They're creeping in now. And I'm gonna make just an early assumption. You have nearly all of them at Platinum Karnacharya, which is gonna be pretty cool to see. But of the Far Cries, we have 3 Blood Dragon and Primal, which I don't like Primal. I don't find it interesting. I find the gameplay very, very limited. I find the behind the scenes really interesting. The whole them making up their own Neanderthal language based on various different sounds and stuff that they were able to sort of get researchers and stuff to find, I guess. I think that's awesome. I think that's really, really cool. Doesn't make a good game though, and the fact that they just used Far Cry 4's map but chucked some redwoods on it didn't quite do it for me personally. Fighting Vipers, and then let's just get them up, shall we? Here we go. Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy Type 0 HD, 7 Remake Part 2 Electric Boogaloo, 10 HD, 12 The Zodiac Age, 13 2, 15's 100%. I love to see that one. 15 Pocket Edition, and then of course Final Fantasy 16. Okay, so you haven't done the recent ports of the originals, which I believe are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I believe they've all been brought to console. I am curious, Karnacharya, are they up the priority list as games that you do want to do at some points? It does look like you did complete them all pretty steadily over the years. It looks like each year at least had one Final Fantasy squeezed in there, so that's some content for you. I always like to see Final Fantasy 15 covered personally. One of the DLCs is technically, so it's unobtainable in that you can't access the servers anymore unless you reverse patch your game, which involves a whole lot of hoodoo, it's handy for certain games to get back to a patch before Comrades, which is the DLC, was made standalone, and then you can access it then. So it's technically unobtainable, but there is workarounds to get it that are legal with PS Plus. You're not going to get flagged were you to go that route. But I do like to see that you did it here. As you can see, the 10 unobtainable trophies, as I mentioned. We then have Firewatch, which is a game I adore. This is essentially a walking sim where you play a national park ranger up in one of those old 1930s wooden watchtowers. You develop relationships with certain individuals over your walkie-talkie, and plot carries out because of that. It's very, very interesting. We then get Flow, followed by Flower 3 times, Flower being a precursor for the devs of Journey, I believe. I didn't know that it was on the PS4 though, so that's interesting. I might do that one myself at some point. Fractured Minds, me literally every single day, followed by Full Throttle, Galaga Legions, Galaga being a classic early game in gaming history. We then get some juicy Game of Thrones here, and I love to see a juicy Game of Thrones, of course. We have the Telltale game Twice, and weirdly stacked in the middle of them, we have the low-key slapper that is Game of Thrones, the RPG Dragon Age clone. The game is not particularly great, but I do really like the idea behind it. I like the story, kind of. The gameplay, I like Dragon Age Origins, so I can put up with it here. It's okay. It essentially follows 2 different characters, and their storylines sort of intertwine at points, which is pretty fun, I will say. Ghost of Tsushima Twice. I actually did this myself recently. The big hurdle here typically is the raid, which I can see it being pretty hard. Shout out to Bruce, Peter, and Catlord, 3 wonderful members of the Platinum Standard community. The link is in the description below. You know you want to join, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We did the raid together and we didn't have too much trouble. Chapter 2 is definitely by far the hardest, but I would say chapter 1 and 3 are relatively cruisy. Yeah, they were good fun. We then have 2018's God of War, followed by Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. Grim Fandango is another one I really need to do at some point. This is another point and click where you play as a skeleton detective. Gree is next, or Green, Gree, I always call it Grey. This is a French side-scrolling, very artistic sort of indie game that is fantastic. I will say one of the trophies for getting all the apples in one of the worlds is annoying. One of those apples is very much not in the direction you're going to walk, and you got to go quite a long way back just to get it. Guilty Gear Strive is next, followed by Hades, which is a game I notoriously have an E rank on my account. I don't hate Hades, but I don't like Hades. It's a roguelike, and it's a very good one at that. I will give it credit there. It is a very, very good roguelite, but it just wasn't for me personally. I like the setting, I like the idea. I don't like the trophies. The trophies are very, very grindy. I'll get back to it at some point. I pinky promise, but it is not this day. We then have Hateo Boyfriend, which is a game where you date pigeons, and the sequel Holiday Star, followed by Hatsune Miku Project Diva F. Some of these names hurt my brain when I try and read them at this pace. We then have Haven, which I've heard relatively good things about, followed by Heavy Rain, which is another David Cage interactive movie sort of game. Jason! That's essentially all I really remember from it. The Origami Killer was pretty cool. This is another game I need to do at some point, but there are so many endings. There are so many endings in this game, and ain't nobody got time for that. Hellblade Snow Sacrifice. This is one I talked about last week as being a game I really want to do at some point. I got told in the comments that if you just search Senua's Sacrifice, it shows up then. So shout out to, I believe Jay Carr was the one that told me. Thank you so much, man. I will grab that when it is not 50 Australian dollars. We then have Hitman Go, which is a tile sliding puzzle Hitman sort of game, followed by Home, followed by Horizon Zero Dawn. Shame they never made a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. That would have been a really cool game to play more of. Followed by Hyperdimension, Neptunia Rebirth 1, Neptunia U, Action Unleashed, I Am Setsuna, Icy, and Infamous First Light. We then move on to a cheeky bit more cricket, which, being an Australian right now, I like to see. We won the Ashes, which was good, and it's definitely caused quite a stir. J-Star's Victory VS Plus, followed by Jazzpunk. Jazzpunk is an easy peasy. It's fantastic though. It is essentially, it takes the piss out of things like James Bond, early James Bonds, those sort of campy espionage sort of things, and packs it together into a couple little levels that are very, very fun and very, very quirky. We then have JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Journey, which again, like I said from Flower, this one's quite interesting. Essentially, it's a walking sim where you were just navigating certain environments without saying anything. There's no dialogue. There is a trophy for playing with another person. My good friend Bruce and I tried to do this a while back and couldn't connect, sadly, so I believe it might be somewhat region tied, but the game itself is a classic, of course. And then we're rounding out the J's with the Jurassic Parks, which, like I said previously, these are Telltale games. I believe they are pretty good Telltale games. This is pre-Walking Dead, and it follows some characters around Jurassic Park's breakout of the dinos. We then move into Kill the Kill F, or If rather, followed by Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, which is a fantastic game. This was kind of like a single-player MMO, I guess is the best way of describing it. Open world RPG, but with a lot of sort of fetch questy stuff on the side, which wasn't quite as good. But the story was genuinely pretty good, and the world was huge. This is another one I would be tempted to do a video on at some point. I'm actually going to put a list of all the games I kind of want to cover on videos in the Discord. I've made like a category, I guess you would call it, filled with my video sort of plans, discussions, things like that. So if you do want to be a part of that, do join the Discord and get on it. I always appreciate the feedback and the help, of course. Last Rebellion is next, followed by Late Shift. Then we get a little bit of Lego here, which I always love to see. DC Supervillains. This is one I kind of want to do. It was free on Plus like 2 years ago, but it is an open world one. It is very bloated. but it is only 30 hours apparently, so maybe I will get to that sooner rather than later. Super Marvel Superheroes Universe in Peril. This is the Marvel Superheroes Vita version. The levels are sort of laid out in a top-down view as opposed to the regular view, I believe. We then have the video game, which is same sort of deal, I believe, on the Vita, whereas the console version is different and more normal, I guess you would say. Lego The Hobbit. This is the Lego tie-in for The Hobbit, of course. We then have Letter Quest, followed by Level 22, followed by all of the Life is Strange's except the good one. We have the first one twice, Life is Strange 2, and Before the Storm. We don't speak about Life is Strange 2. Lightning Returns, Final Fantasy 13 again. All that this series has really done for me is taught me that I'm really, really good at Roman numerals, because I never get those wrong, and I'm low-key very proud of myself. We then have Live Lock, followed by an indie horror I really want to play called Lone Survivor. It's an ultra rare at 4.56%, which you always love to see. It's a side-scroller. I've heard it's pretty good, but I've also heard it's really bad, and I've never heard the in-between, so maybe I should play it soon and find out for myself. Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time, followed by Missionarium, which is another game I actually bought myself recently that I intend to do at some point. It looks like a side-scrolling kind of puzzly sort of game where you play as some robots in a post-apocalyptic world. We then have Maggots next, which is kind of one of the, and again, the OG easy-peasy PS3 games. It's an action, medieval, swiping, hack-em-up action RPG. I don't know what you would call it. It's not good, though. We then have some Marvel games. We have a lot of Marvel games here with Marvel vs. Capcom 2, New Age of Heroes. Marvel vs. Capcom 3, The Fate of Two Worlds, which is a 1.80% ultra rare, which you love to see. I believe Platinum talked about these recently. I think he might have earned one of these and said that it might have been one of the hardest games he'd ever played from memory. I think that might have been Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. I think that's the one he talked about, but you have all of them here, and there are some juicy ultra rares with a 0.97, a 1.80, and a 1.16% completion rate there, and then Marvel vs. Capcom Origins, which is a 9. These are very beefy, grindy games, so congratulations. They're obviously fighting games. I love to see the completion, so congrats there. We then have the Telltale Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy. I got it right this week. Go team me, woo. We then have Marvel Spider-Man. No Miles Morales. I don't either. I need to get round to it. It's another one I want to do a video on at some point. We then have Medusa and her lover. It's me. Spoilers. It's me. I'm just a handsome boy. We then have Mega Tag Mensin Blank plus Nichima versus Zombies. Metropolis Lux Obscura, followed by Mine Zero, followed by both seasons of Minecraft Telltale Minecraft. It is what it is. Minute's a really interesting one, actually. This is another one I really need to do at some point. Essentially, you have a minute each run, and you die at the end of that minute, but you get whatever gear you found on that minute, and so you'll progress further and further into the game. I've heard it's fantastic. I've had some very good friends of mine recommend this to me, so I plan to knock it out at some point myself. Monkey Island 2 Special Edition, LeChuck's Revenge, followed by Monster Mon Peace, Mr. Masagi. I could do a massage myself, to be honest. My shoulders are feeling very tense these days. Marisuka Baby, followed by Muv-Luv, followed by Muv-Luv Alternative. To My Name is Mayos. You need the series completion. We need to know what happens in the final act. I would love to see that series complete, of course. Neon Chrome, followed by Nechinia, Senran Kagura Ninja Wars, Never Alone, which is an Eskimo girl, I believe, and her fox doing a side-scroller sort of adventure. I actually bought this game very recently to do myself. I've heard fantastic things about this game, so I'll hopefully be doing it myself very, very soon. We then have two Ni no Kunis with the first and the second game, Wrath of the White Witch and Revenant Kingdom. This is essentially JRPG versus Pokemon. You catch monsters and you fight them. I've only ever played half of the first game, and the first act of that game might have the darkest opening to a game I have ever played. It is, it's intense. It's very, very intense. Two Nickelodeon All-Star Brawls, which you love to see. I believe these did have a way of popping the trophies where if you played as player 2 in couch co-op, anything on player 1's save state would unlock for you. Kind of like the whole Stranded Deep stuff at the moment. This was a game with a very similar premise. Near Autonoma, followed by Nobby Bobby Boy. Fair enough. Ocean Horn, Monster of Uncharted Seas, followed by Uncharted Spear. Lefrasia, Okami HD. I think was Okami made by the same people that did... oh no, why am I having a blank? The game with the really big monsters and the horse. Oh, what's it called? Not the same devs as The Last Guardian. The Colossus, Shadow of the Colossus. There we go, I got there. Okami might have been made by the same people. I know there was another game by them. You had Shadow of the Colossus, Last Guardian. It might have been called A Cage, actually. I can't fully remember. This might have been it. It might not be. Oregon Trail Complete, followed by Overcooked, which is a fantastic cult game where you are managing a kitchen under various different extreme circumstances. Oxenfree is another one I really need to do at some point. I believe the sequel just dropped, so I need to get round to this one and knocking it out myself. We've got Pac-Man Champion Edition DX, which... a few people in the Platinum Standard Discord will love to see that there. We've got some Paint Park Plus, followed by Papers, Please, which is made by the same guy that did Return of the Obra Dinn, which is a phenomenal game. So I really need to do Papers, Please at some point. You are essentially border security, determining who enters and leaves the country based on their passports. Papa and Yo, followed by Penny Arcade. On the Rain Slick Precipice of D. And we will never know what the D was. We then have a lot of Personas here, so Penguin, eat your heart out, mate. We've got the full series here, essentially, with Persona 3 Dancing in Moonlight, Persona 4 Golden, Persona 4 Arena, Arena Ultimax, Dancing All Night twice, Persona 5 Royal, Persona 5 Strikers, and Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight. I nearly mixed them up there, but I got all the way to the end. Is that all of the Personas on PlayStation 4? I am curious. Penguin is my expert, let me know in the comments. But that is a seriously impressive completion there. I love to see that right there. Congratulations, Karnacharya. We then have some Phantom Break Battlegrounds, followed by the original Plants vs. Zombies, which is based on the same format that took the phone world by storm way back in the day. We then have two PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royales. This was Sony's answer to Super Smash. Essentially a bunch of characters like Nathan Drake and Crash Bandicoot fighting to the death. It was good fun. It is sadly now very unobtainable. Proteus is next, followed by Prototype 2, which is the easier of the two prototypes, but probably also the more enjoyable of the two prototypes. Psycho Pass Mandatory Happiness is a VR novel, followed by Punchline, Ragdoll, Kung Fu, Fist of Plastic, Rain, Raj, an Ancient Epic, only Ratchet & Clank a Rift Apart. That is an interesting one to see there. I'm actually kind of surprised we don't see at least the 2016 version. Remember Me, only two Resident Evils. Okay. You have Resident Evil 4 and 5, which 4 I can understand. There are better ones than 5. There's better ones than 4, to be honest with you, but I don't want to riot against me. But I love that series. It's one that I really want to try and finish myself this year if I can. I have a lot to go, but congratulations on those 200%. I actually have neither of those 200%ed on my account. I have like one trophy left in Resident Evil 5, and I haven't done either version of Resident Evil 4 on my account. We then have Retromania Wrestling, wrestling game obvious, Revenant Saga, followed by Res Infinite, followed by Rhyme, which is a beautiful little puzzle game. There's actually my first platinum on Symmetry. The End is the New Beginning. It was a really fitting platinum that I didn't plan at all, but I'm going to run with it. We then have all of the Sam and Maxes here, with the Devil's Playhouse 1, 2, 3, and 4. Saturday Morning RPG. You can only play it on Saturday mornings. That's why it's a 14% rare platinum. It's unobtainable the rest of the week. You can only play it on a Saturday. We then have SBCG4AP, Episode 1, Episode 2, Episode 3, Episode 4, and Episode 5, rounded out by Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which is a side-scroller beat-up that I've heard relatively good things about. I've also heard that it crashes a lot. We then have Senran, Kagura Bon Appetit, Kagura Burst, Kagura Estival versus Twice, Shinobi versus, and Peach Beach Splash. One of these names is not like the others. We then have Severed, which is a game I believe was free on Plus at some point that I was kind of interested in at some point and then got lazy and didn't do, followed by Only One Sly Cooper, that's interesting, SNK, Heroines, Tag Team Frenzy, followed by Soma, which is a fantastic horror walking sim. It's made by the same people that did the Amnesia series. Essentially, you are in a diving suit thousands of meters below the sea, and you are trying to work out how you got there, what happened to the human race, and what happened to that submarine. We then have Sonic the Fighters, followed by Sonic Ultimate Genesis Collection, Soul Calibur 2 HD, and Soul Calibur 6, which you always love to see. That's another sort of fighting series. So I'm starting to notice you like your cricket, you like your JRPGs and anime sort of style games, and you like your fighters, which is a really good combo. That's a good wombo combo right there. We then have the Sound Shapes games with the well, there's only one game, but stacked 3 times with all the DLC, which I always love to see, followed by South Park, the Fractured Butthole, and the Stick of Truth. I think the Stick of Truth is definitely my favorite of these two. They're both fantastic in their own ways, but the whole medieval sort of Dungeons and Dragons-y sort of theme definitely enticed me more than the superhero theme, although they're both absolute fantastic games. We then have Stacking, followed by Star Ocean, The Last Hope International, State of Mind, Steins Gate, and Steins Gate Zero, Stories of Past with Destiny, Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, Street Fighter 4, which is fantastic to see. That is a juicy 0.61% completion rate. Congratulations there. I've heard this platinum is genuinely very grindy and very difficult, so I love to see that one right there. We then have Super Neptunia RPG, followed by Teiko no Tatsune 5 version. We then have Tales from the Borderlands Twice, which is the Telltale Borderlands kind of stand-in that is between, I believe, Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 3. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a Cowabunga collection. This is a collection of the Ninja Turtles games from the 90s, the arcade sort of games. I've heard really, really good things. This is another one I would like to do at some point, but I'm very, very lazy. We've got some Tekkens here. I did Tekken 7 myself recently. I'll be honest, I didn't really enjoy it. I grew up with the early Tekkens and loved them as a kid, but I found the older I get, the dumber I get. So different button combos, they hurt the old noggin. Too much rugby, too many head knocks. But we have Tekken 6, Tekken 7, Tekken Revolution, which does have unobtainable trophies. In fact, it's only unobtainable. We then have Tekken Tournament 2, 2's Prologue, Tag Tournament HD, and that's all the Tekkens. But that is a juicy collection there. I think that is all of them that are on that have trophy support, so congratulations there. We then have Teslagrad, followed by the Ascent, which is a game I kind of want to do. It's just come out on Plus and I'm very, very tempted. It looks like a tactical sort of strategic game where essentially you are climbing up the layers of a cyberpunky dystopia sort of world with a party of characters, so it looks really, really interesting. We then have the Bunker, followed by the Council, which was one of, I would say, the worst Telltale clones I played. It starts really interesting. You are a dude who rocks up to an island full of rich political history figures, and you are trying to uncover a mystery that ends up very supernatural and, quite frankly, a bit silly. Also, the game breaks a lot. I had my audio completely break on me, which was not very fun. We then have the Deadly Tower of Monsters, followed by the Elder Scrolls Skyrim, which you always love to see a bit of Elder Scrolls representation there, followed by Jackbox Party Pack 1 and 2. I believe there's about 6 of these now. These are very, very fun. You can play them on your mobile as well as on various different consoles all at once. Get your mates around and have a blast for some juicy ultra rares, which is something I would love to do at some point. We then have the Order 1886. I've talked about this every single week. I adore this game. It's a shame we'll never get a sequel. We then have The Raven Legacy of Master Thief. I believe I talked about this in the last episode. It's a heisty sort of point and click. That looks really interesting. I kind of really want to do it at some point. It's relatively short, I believe, and yeah, it's one I definitely want to knock out at some point. We then have Secret of Monkey Island, followed by The Swapper, followed by Unfinished Wonders, followed by like a million Walking Deads right here, with The Walking Dead 3 times, The Collection, A New Frontier, Michonne, Season 2 twice, Season 2 3 times rather. I can't count. And then we round it out with The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which I adore. I still think The Witcher 2 is probably my favorite of the series, but they're all fantastic, let's be real. The Wolf Among Us is, I've heard, a really, really good Telltale. It's one, I keep saying this like every single episode, I need to do The Wolf Among Us, and then I never do. So someone strap me down and force me to do that. I dare you, I double dare you. We then have Theatre Rhythm, The Final Bar, followed by Thomas Was Alone, which is another one I really need to knock out at some point. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tales in Time Reshelled. This is a remaster of the arcadey sort of game. I believe this one is also in the Cowabunga collection, but I'm not too sure. We then have Transistor, followed by Trine 2. I believe there are 4 Trines, and I've heard very, very good things about that series. Marvel vs. Capcom 3, very, very rare, 0.59%. It rounds out the full series completion of the Marvel vs. Capcoms we saw before. I love to see that. That is very juicy. Congratulations, Karnacharya. We then have Undertale here, which is one that came out on Plus recently and is one I really want to do. I believe, once again, our Lord and Savior, OptiNoob, has done a guide on this game, so you can probably complete it in like 5 minutes, but I'll get to this one at some point very soon. I pinky promise. I pinky promise. We then have Until Dawn, another one I need to get back to doing. I've done this on an older account. I've been struggling through Man of Medan at the moment myself. There's a lot of boats in that game. But Until Dawn's fantastic. It's your classic slasher sort of mashup where a bunch of teenagers go to a remote location and are picked off one by an unseen element. It's fantastic. The decisions affect different outcomes that affect different narrative plots. It's just an all-round good one. This is one I would definitely highly recommend. We then have Valkyrie Chronicles, followed by Valkyrie Drive, Bikuni, Virtua Fighter 2 here, followed by Wheels of Aurelia. Whispering Willows was kind of an interesting one. This is another point and click. I have actually done this one. This is essentially you play as a young girl who's trying to work out what happened to her father by going to a haunted mansion, and you talk to different ghosts and solve puzzles to progress through the game. It was really, really good, actually. I highly recommend this one. Wizard of Legend, followed by WWE 2K Battlegrounds, which is another one I really kind of want to do at some points. I think it might be on sale at the moment, so I might actually pick that up. So someone remind me of that, please. Someone in the comments, let me be reminded that I need to pick up 2K Battlegrounds, okay? We then have 2K14, which unfortunately, along with most of the WWEs, does have unobtainable trophies because the server's shut on these in like 3 days. It's ridiculous. I need to finish 2K22 myself at some point. I still have all of the Proving Grounds medals to get, and that knowledge makes me sad. And then we round it out with probably my favorite of the WWE games, with Legends of WrestleMania, which is just a classic. We then have the arcade beat 'em up that is X-Men, followed by X-Blaze Code Embryo, X-Blaze Lost Memories. You don't know Jack, which is true. I don't know him. I don't know him. And then we round out this fantastic list with Zombie Vikings, which, wow, 100% accounts. I believe the only game we saw that was not complete was indeed Diablo 4, which is fantastic. But let's go have a look at the stats. So we'll scroll up there real quick. I could do a cut for this. I could be a professional and edit it, but I'm not going to. So let's go over the stats, shall we? When the internet loads any day now. 330 games for a 44.93% average. As you know, I love to see anything under 50%, so congratulations Karnacharya there. 11,273 trophies for an average completion rate of 99.5%. That is something I could only dream of. Sadly, Friday the 13th is now unobtainable for me, so I can't get 100% account, but I can get up to 99.5, and you better believe I'm not going to. We average an S rank for a total of 354,000 points, 825. As you can see through the monthly activity, Karnacharya has been fairly consistent. except for February of 2016, where they went absolute apeshit and earned like fucking 5 times the amount of trophies that they normally do. And they've earned trophies in every single hour of the day, which is something I can't do because I'm old and I need 8 hours of sleep in order to remain this beautiful. But this has been the list. If you made it this far, let me know what your favorite type of Dorito is. And I'll see you on the next episode. There'll be an episode next week. I'm going to try and get these back to being fairly weekly if possible. Of course, there'll also be content on the second channel, Symmetry, so do go and subscribe there. I am uploading a lot of previously recorded videos such as Resident Evil 7 and Cold War over there, as well as new content just to sort of stagger that out in between. So do keep an eye out there. I'm also very active on Twitter and in the Discord. So if you look in the links below, you'll see my socials. Do have a chat with me there. I dare you. I double dare you. And if you want your own list looked at, do leave it in the Platinum Standard Discord's profile requests. Anyway, this has been Symmetry. I miss you already. I miss you. Goodbye. Goodbye. I miss you.